Hi guys, Bran here, and welcome to a very different video. Oh no, a different video. I think lately I'd started to get a little bit killer bias, so I've been trying to think of ways to get myself, back in check. So let's make a negative killer video, something that's bashing the killer situation, and today I was trying to make a video. I was trying to think of ideas of what can I bash about killer, because it's the preferred role. I like this role a lot. And I came up with this idea of I really have a lot of problems with the killer roster, and that's interesting because usually on stream I'm I typically play most killers in the game, so it would seem like I like the killer roster, but there was a lot of stuff I came up with that I didn't like about the killer roster. So let's go ahead and get started with 5 things that I hate about the killer roster. Number 1, most of the cast has really poor movement, or outdated. I guess outdated would be the word, because we have Spirit, zoom zoom, Nurse, zoom zoom, and then we have Blight, zoom zoom. Who else has good movement in the game? Billy? He still has to rev his chainsaw, and he has an overheat mechanic. So you get in this situation where if you want to play outside of 5-ish characters, if you want to play outside of about 5 people, those 5 people being on the stronger side, you end up just waddling around the map. If you want to play Moogle, if you want to play Clown, if you want to play Ghostface, if you want to play Plage, if you want to play, basically everybody, you gotta waddle around the map. And maps are big in Dead by Daylight. The average map is pretty huge. Even a medium-sized map is pretty hard for an average killer to traverse. But the good thing is that, some killers have ways to just kind of deal with that because they have a movement option. Some killers in Dead by Daylight just are, I would say most killers in Dead by Daylight, almost all of them, don't have a movement option. So they're just kind of stuck, just kind of waddling around the map. And it's just really annoying. It's really the game has over time, they've added more and more ways for killers to deal with the size of the maps, but it's only been to 5 of them. Right? So everybody else, they keep releasing maps that are huge, RPD being the best example, and then there's no way to really traverse them well at all. All the gens are spread so far out, and you're just walking around. You're just scooting around, right? So killer's pretty stupid in that regard, and just the fact that most on average you're gonna be playing people who can't move very well. Second, most of the cast is anti-chase. Interesting, isn't it? Okay, it's not most of the cast. It's it's a big chunk. It's a big chunk, okay? And it kind of started with Doctor doing the shock, but that took a lot of skill to do. So even though he was annoying and he's kind of a scrub killer, he you kind of get less angry at him as time goes on, because you're well, it's kind of hard to do that. But now every killer does that. Deathslinger's anti-chase, Pyramid Head's anti-chase, even though I would argue Pyramid Head is a little bit more fun because that's more counterplay. Nemesis is nefariously the biggest new anti-chase killer. Spirit's anti-chase. Why is there so many anti-chase killers in the game, right? Trickster's anti-chase now. It's just feels like almost every killer that they've been releasing has been anti-chase, and chase is the only fun part of the video game. The rest of the game is holding M1 and hitting spacebar, holding M1 and hitting spacebar, or running it up and kicking the gen, running up and kicking the gen. That stuff's really boring. So why do most of the killers really shorten the fun part of the game? Wraith's anti-chase now. I just remembered. I was there's somebody I'm forgetting. Why do we keep trying to edit out the most fun part of the game on both sides? Not just the killer side, but both sides. Both sides of the game is the funnest part of the game. And we're just slowly editing it out. So that's pretty neat. That's pretty cool. Let's not do that. Number three. Some really cool killers are really outdated. I'm looking at you, Trapper, Moogle, and Plague. Trapper, why? I know they've done a lot. I know there's going to be some DVD boomer who's well, they used to be able to destroy the trap, so he's fine. Okay, whatever, dude. Okay. But he's still in a really rough spot where he can't really perform in 2021, despite being a really cool character and literally the face of the whole brand. Can't perform in 2021. Moogle used to be really crazy when he came out, because insta down was kind of reserved for Billy, and him vaulting windows quicker and having the stealth thing was like super crazy. But now, like I was saying in point number 1, he just kind of waddles around, right? He just kind of like waddles around. He doesn't really like, you know, he doesn't really do much compared to a lot of the killers nowadays. Like the fact that he has to spend like the whole first, like he has to spend such a big part of the match just, okay, now I have normal movement speed. It's just like, oh, it's so painful to just stand there and stare at somebody while, and like, that's gen time. That's gen time, my dude. That's gen time while he's just standing there just going, I'm being lore accurate. Don't move. Oh God, he's moving. Now I gotta chase. You know, but I can't chase because I'm too slow. He's just very, very outdated and needs to be looked at again. Same with Plague. Why is Plague getting her power stopped while being slapped with a pallet in 2021? Like, how can you say that when Oni exists? Like, it's just like there's so many characters that just like need just small quality of life changes, but like they don't want to like adjust characters without doing like a whole add-on rework pass. Like they don't want to do like little quality of life changes every single patch. They want to make a big deal about it and make like a whole showcase about it. It's like, I don't want that. Like literally just like, I would love to have patches in Dead by Daylight where it was just like, you know, like just they just adjusted small things every single patch. Yeah, they're just like small stuff that's just like randomly different, you know, like oh, Legion's Feral Frenzy lasts a little bit longer now. Okay, so the rulers get more value, you know, like are not as needed, like the ruler add-ons aren't as needed, you know, like just little stuff like that, like just little things, and people can go, wow, I love that, or wow, I hate it, and then we can just like adjust accordingly by next patch, like just tiny things. And I think like little quality of life stuff that really go a long way to making sure that like the killers don't end up like Trapper, Moogle, and Plague that just kind of like get ridiculously outdated as the game goes on, because we drop them, we throw them out there, and then we don't look at them ever again. We don't interact with them ever again until we're giving them a skin in the rift, you know? So I just don't think that's good. Number 4, copycat killers. Speaking of Moogle, why would you play Moogle in 2021 when Ghostface exists? I mean, I guess there's like slugging potential, right? You can slug more, but like you don't have any movement speed. So like you're not realistically going to have the movement to really like, you know, take advantage of his tier 3 like lasting. Ideally, 99ing people with Ghostface is just like incredibly more efficient. And there's kind of no reason to play Moogle besides how cool he is in the IP. I mean, and that's coming from a Moogle main. Like, he's my main character. Like, if you're just talking strictly performance in the game, there's kind of no reason to play Moogle. And I think that kind of sucks. So there's like other examples of that in the game. But like, I think a good example of this is Hillbilly and Bubba. Like, Hillbilly and Bubba are actually a good example of this because they have such separate powers, you know, like they're both chainsaw people with hammers and clearly are inspired by each other, but like, you know, they do very, very different things despite both having chainsaw. But other killers in the game are just kind of like worse versions of people that they're similar to. And that's just kind of, it's kind of Number 5. The power gap between killers. This is probably my least favorite thing about playing killer and the killer roster, is that you are so decentivized to play new killers or to play middling killers or to low tier killers, because the killers that are good, like Nurse Spirit Blight, Hag, whoever's number 5, I don't think we have a good consensus about who's number 5, but like essentially it's like, what reason do you have to not play them if you want results, right? Because they're not only they're not like top and slightly better, like they are like way better. Like Nurse and Spirit are up here, Blight's like here, Blight and Hag are like right here, and then the rest of the killer roster is like all the way down here. Like, it's not like they're just because they're, you know, behind each other that they're close. Like there's a huge gap in power between these characters. So when you go from like, when you go in the situation where you're like, man, I want to play and I kind of want to win, but I want to try something fun, so I'm going to play somebody that, you know, isn't like, you know, top tier. You're going from here to down here, right? You're not just like dropping down to like, oh, well, maybe there's somebody that like is kind of more fun but isn't as meta, but they're kind of like, you know, not that bad. No, the differentiation is like this much, right? You are dropping this far just to play somebody like Doctor or Huntress, you know, instead of like the meta characters. Like the gap is this freaking huge. So it's in a sense, it's just like the power differentiation is so vast that it dissuades you from playing all killers, and that's annoying. That's really dumb. It's really stupid. I think that's one of the only ways that I think that's a really. I think like usually people see it as like a negative, that like survivors are essentially skins of each other. But I, in a sense, I get it and I like it. I can play Jeff and nobody's gonna give me crap about playing Jeff because I can still run the good perks. I know there's the ultra sweat lords who will never play competitive, that are big whiny babies who are like, wow, Jeff's really loud. Yeah, but like in general, like the characters are just skins, which means like you don't have the killer problem where like, oh, I really like the aesthetic of Jeff and Cheryl, but I don't want to play them because Ace is meta, right? You know, like like that's not a problem on the Survivor side of things, and that's really, really cool. But killer definitely does have that problem, unfortunately, where like you're definitely incentivized to play the strong killers, and like deciding to play somebody else is such a drastic drop from playing the meta people. So yeah, that's 5 things I dislike about the killer roster. Hopefully you liked the video. It was a little different, and it was fun for you to watch, friendo. If you like what I do, hit the this thing button. And if you like what I do, you know, maybe stick around a while, sub. It's not permanent, you can come back anytime and take it away if you hate it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for spending time with me, friendo. If I don't see you in the next video, I will see you when I see you, friendos. Goodbye!